Cecil Ortiz became a director and put those houses together. And then that was sold to buy a union hall. And then that was sold to buy this. It took 45 years. And it took people continuously thinking about how we could grow this organization. And today it's the biggest asset that we own as a community. And so I want you to think about this. It's not that we're gonna build this museum and that's it, hello, goodbye, everybody's, it's a starter. It's something we can do now. And I wanna emphasize that because people who don't like this site, let's friggin' sell it in 5 years and make $40 million. I mean, we can do that. We can do whatever we want once this board and this organization and this museum is set up. So the first reason that they're proposing this is because it's timely and historical. In other words, we're gonna be part of the 2026 commission and the 2026 celebration. And the museum can open in 2026. So it's timely and it's historic. Second of all, it's affordable. There's been a lot of studies done, not only by this group, but by the development group that's doing this incredible. Do people know about where it is? No. Okay, it's on the Auraria campus facing the Ball Auditorium. It's in a new development where Denver's going to be taking down villages and developing that whole site. So it's the prime real estate in Denver today. So because we are going to be on public land, we don't have to buy the land. And we don't have to do the development. And we don't have to do the architectural prints. And we don't have to do all the things that we would have to do if we wanted to do a standalone museum somewhere else. It would double the cost. So maybe that's a consideration, because if we want to do something different, who's going to raise the money to do something different? The price tag on this particular building is $20 million. The price tag on a standalone would be double that amount of money. Second of all, because this was an initiative through the commission, there has already been some fundraising done. There's $1 million donated from the family fund. There's $2 million, and I wanted you to know that this money is not transferable. It's not gonna go somewhere else. It's for this initiative. From the Colorado Health Foundation. There's a bill that's going to go into the state Senate about the commission and about the celebration. The governor, which this is what he's committed, is money for this museum, which would be around $9 million that would go to the Colorado History Museum, that would be given to the Auraria Higher Education Complex, AHAC, to buy this building. And in addition to that, there's already a nonprofit that has been set up. Now, one of the things about raising money, if you've never raised it, it's hard to get. The other thing is that the design has been culturally focused, so that it includes a plaza, a mercado, and a place to showcase small businesses. There will be space for Latino art, for cooking and culture. Now, it will be geographically connected to the Peace Walk and the other initiatives by the Aurarian group that has been working so diligently to preserve who we are as a community and our original community on the Auraria campus.
Martinez attorney. It sounds like, from what I know, that we have the attention and the time period to act now. The governor is interested in doing something. He has promised funding for it. So the quicker we come together and make this decision, the better chance we have of actually this thing going through. I mean, 2026 is gonna be around the corner real quick. And you don't know where the governor will be, who will be governor, what state legislature is gonna approve this. If we have that now, which you didn't have when the Bernie Valdez building was built, you gotta move.
Okay?
And you gotta
So
come together.
that's one good thing. There has been some good work done. Yes, there was that community involvement, we got that. But there has been some good work done by people to present this proposition, this opportunity to the community. What else? Yes, honey. Say your name, just.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Rosario Sadevaca. Good afternoon, I'm Rosario Sadevaca. And I think it's very nice of the governor and the area campus to want to engage with the community on this, which is a long time coming. I mean, we never asked to become part of the United States, you know, and the treaties that were made with our gente were never honored. And we're still fighting for dual language, for recognition of our history, on and so forth. And I see the faces here, and we've been working on this struggle forever and ever. The one thing that I do want to correct is that my husband was a history professor at Metro, and he did write the book La Gente for the Colorado History Museum, and it's a wonderful edition that's used in classrooms and whatnot. The point that I guess the concern that I have is that we are asked to validate good intentions
Right.
of the white man, and you know we're all mixed. Okay, so we're talking about some of our you know ancestors are white and whatnot, but I'm just talking institutionally. That my concern is that we're not used to rubber stamp a feel good intent. I mean, you know. Our community was ravaged and ripped up by the construction of the freeway. Our community was ravaged and displaced from the Auraria campus. Even as we exist, our neighborhoods are being ravaged and we're getting displaced. I mean, our schools are getting closed because of this. So that's our history. That's our history. And so, you know, after the institution squatted, you know, that's, I mean, as from my point of view, they came squatted and set up the university, and now, good for them. It's a Hispanic serving institution at Metro, I guess UCD, and also Community College of Denver. I know how, because my husband taught at Metro, AHEC is the landlord at the Auraria campus, and if they're going to continue, if the Colorado History Museum is going to be the pass-through agency to get money from the state to, transfer that money to AHEC. They're both institutions of higher education. This will not be a community asset. This will be a public asset because, unlike the Mikasa building that could be liquidated by the nonprofit and then, acquire the property, I think it's not accurate to say that the community will have an asset because if for any reason we want to move that museum, that won't that's still state property.
Yeah. So, let me see if I can summarize. So you are concerned about being part of the institution, is that?
My concern is that the way it's been presented is not accurate. This, this is engagement of the community to give the support, and that's fine. If the governor wants to do the money and all that, that's fine. But we should not be made to believe that we're going to have an asset.
Okay, so this will be owned, the condo, the condo concept, you're right, you don't
Yeah,
own land.
it's property
Will
of the
be,
state.
will be owned by a nonprofit, developed by Latinos, with Latinos on the board that will make a decision about what to do in the future. And all nonprofit boards have to listen to their community.
Can you explain something? Because another concern that the producer and I and Holly have.
Speak up, Ramona.
We go out and raise all this money.
Speak up.
And we go out and raise all this money, and then in comes an institution like History Colorado, which we need, don't get me wrong, because they asked for expertise. So what happens, and I want to clarify one thing. Yes, this was approved by the commission in October 11th of 2023. But from the time that we looked at different properties, et cetera, did cost analysis, did all kinds of research, et cetera, it has only been since March, the end of March, that we felt the pressure to decide if this was going to be something that we, as a community, not us, we don't, we're like, Polly says, I'm 80 years old, forget it, I'm done, you know, but as a community asset, so how do you keep that? Letter of intent, letter of intent to purchase. April 30th, sign it or lose it. $1 million down payment, because the other tenants in the building have already reached their obligations. We had not. We were only in talking stages with the developer, who happens to be a Latino, a young man named Ivan Anayas, who was born in Guadalajara, grew up in Denver, went to my high school. Young man excited about the project. He came to us and said, I can make this work for our community. We signed, but you each have, come on, stand up, because you put yourself on the line. She signed a letter of intent to purchase on April 20th. We came, thank you very much, from a family, Latino Family Foundation, gave us $1 million to put down. We met the obligation for the community on April 30th. Now, we have to raise another $2 million, so almost $3 million. So we said, okay, we're not there yet, because the letter of intent, if we didn't meet the obligations, we would lose it. And we would lose $1 million if we go back to the foundation. Because their reason they gave us $1 million is because they liked the site. They thought it was very sensible, it made sense for them. So anyway, so I want to explain that. So right now, we have the letter of intent, and the community, has the down payment for that property. So the governor in the state of Colorado cannot sign to purchase property. That is, their attorneys have told them, you cannot sign, you cannot purchase property. The state of Colorado, History Colorado, cannot do that. They can't purchase this property from us.
So listen, the reason I signed that letter of intent is because what we did is we put together a 501c3 so that anyone that contributes, you know, for the museum it's a tax deduction. That's why we created it. It's called the Colorado Hispanic Latino Heritage Fund, okay? And so we put that together because we wanted to make sure that, you know, that people could contribute and it goes towards the museum. Yes, I'm the president of the 501c3, which is crazy because I don't want to be, but anyway, that's another story. So what's happened is that's why we created it, was for the community. And I'm going to tell you something. We don't have board members yet. It's brand new. We just established it, a month ago? Not even a month ago. So I know at the first meeting that we had, we asked people, if you want to be on the board, let us know. Because, you know, we're going to have committees to fundraise for the exhibits. We wanted people to be on all the committees. And we're not going to do that. We want the community to be on those committees. And then that's why we raised the first $3 million.
Okay, Patricia, we need to.
Quiet. Okay, you're welcome.
Well, everyone is, I am well aware of 501c3.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, as I grew up in southern Colorado, Denver people always made us feel we were beneath them, not being honest. Nope, we got together, they forgot where they came from. My question is, I understand where you were going, but why couldn't you pick up the phone and call people like Jackie Jaramillo, others say, hey, I got this great idea, you guys are from San Luis. I do know that because I have 10,000 people of the oddities that I got to answer to, and it's not easy. So I'm just wondering how did you let it go so fast?
Gloria,
I don't
we've admitted that wasn't done. Was it realistic for these three women to do all that too? We don't know. But they are apologizing for not reaching out. They will be reaching out. And if you want to be on the board and maybe have a board member from your area, that would be a great way to have you access. So yes, we know that outreach wasn't done and we want to do that now. And we're going to be asking them to get involved. So shall we break? Are we finished with this? So it's opportunities for community involvement. No, this is just the benefit. This is discuss the issues and concerns for this site, is that what you're gonna talk
Right,
about?
right, and then talk about
Okay,
this
the
side.
issues and concerns for this site.
Okay, get over here, so, my name is Frances Torres, I'm a displaced Terrarian, by birth. I don't have a nonprofit that I developed, but I've been involved on the Auraria campus since we were displaced in 1972, and some of you know me, some of you don't, but what I want to talk about is not only displaced Auraria, and I feel like I can represent displaced Aurarians. We have a group on campus that consists of displaced Aurarians and our descendants. And what we have done throughout the years is focus on the scholarship, the displaced Aurarian scholarship, and on preserving our history. So we have been active on the campus. Last March, I was invited to a meeting where you attended, Juana and Juana didn't attend, Ramona was there, and I heard, along with some other displaced Aurarians and some West Side Denver community activists, we heard the presentation. My concern is about the site, okay? My concern is about the location of this museum. And I say that because I have knowledge of the campus. The site that is on 11th Walnut, that you described, is a site that is tremendously involved in the master plan. Now, this master plan was approved on June 26th by AHEC, who are the property managers, who, I don't know if all of what, and I have the question, all of the assets will even be transferable. But at any rate, what happened is this idea of this site was approved in the master plan. And we have, as a group, opposed certain elements of the master plan because it doesn't make sense for the displaced Aurarian community. And one of the things that doesn't make a whole lot of sense is it being in a floor and a half. I don't grasp that, how our statewide community of Hispanics can be represented in a floor and a half in a building that also has housing and commercial. And I don't feel that it's really accessible for that reason to the people who should be represented in that museum. That's a big concern. My other concern is.
Now, wait a minute, for the people who would be represented.
Right, for this.
Wouldn't our community decide what was gonna be in the museum?
Well, I would hope so,
Yeah.
but I don't think that there's enough space. I am really concerned about the space.
30,000 square feet.
30,000 square feet.
6,000, this is 30,000
Does
square
that
feet.
include the Mercado too?
Well,
So it's 30,000 square feet, and I understand, like, one of the things I was gonna recommend is a committee to go meet with Auraria and to meet with AHEC, to negotiate, like, things like parking and things like space and all that. So, yeah, but it is 30,000 square feet.
and big parking problems, because one of our issues has been all along that we do not have parking on the campus.
Right.
And a lot of other people who are not displaced Aurarians complain about the same things.
So we have general concerns, parking, and that, again, it would be something that we would negotiate. So small things like, and I don't wanna make it not relevant, but things like parking and all that, that's something we would negotiate with. They don't own the Tivoli parking, so we would have to negotiate, like some museums.
Plus, there is no parking, not even for the students. So I don't think that you should, let people think that they're gonna do a parking garage or dig a big hole and make a parking garage. There's no space. And so the students don't even have a place to park. And people who come to visit the campus have a hard time finding how to get in there. Because there's only like 3 different ways that you can get in there, and you have to maneuver through downtown, and you have to maneuver through Calumet and Colfax, and
So one of the
it's
concerns-
not a good place for our elders to come and visit. And I think the parking is probably one of the biggest things, but my concern is that the displaced agrarians don't feel that this is a good place for this museum. We want a museum, we've always wanted a museum. I've been telling you guys for 50 years now about a museum. But this site is not doing our people justice. And I think that if we're going to put all of our energy and have people donate money to build this museum, I think we have to start from scratch. And what that means is they have to have a voice in where this museum should be. So I think, I was there, I understand, the fact that we don't have a museum that tells the true story of our history, especially of the state of Colorado. And
so,
we need to continue working on getting something that our people can agree
So
with.
if parking was something, and she's holding up the minute, if parking is something we can
Let's not
negotiate,
get
you
stuck
would
on
be okay
parking.
with that?
I don't
No,
wanna
you
get
said
stuck on
parking was the
parking.
number one,
I don't
so
wanna get
that
stuck
would
on
be
parking.
perfect.
It's not
But
just the
explain
parking,
to me-
it's the site.
Yeah.
The site itself is in a 4-story office classroom building. We have students in classes on the floor above us.
Right.
And we have AHEC, who are the landlords,
Right.
on the other half of one of our floors. And so the displaced agrarians have made it very clear why it is that they don't think this is a good idea, and I believe it because I see it myself.
Okay, two things. One is, there are 38,000 students that would have access to the museum, of
The
which,
students can't even afford their parking. How are they going to be paid to sustain this museum? We cannot hold those students accountable for sustaining this, site.
And they're.
okay, I probably wanna, all right, thank you all. I really wanna say that it's going to be in a site where there are students there who are the next generation, who we want to educate. They're gonna be right on that campus.
That's
It's
not a
going
selling
to, it's
point.
gonna give you all a
That
lot
is not a
more
selling point. That is not a selling point.
to have the students being able and to have the,
Students that choose very campus don't even live near the campus. They come in on the
okay,
train,
but
they come in on the bus.
But we would have, this museum is gonna have an educational component, like all the.
They have their classes.
And we would negotiate classes with the Chicano, all this can be done, Virginia, so that the students do not get access. Okay, I got it, go ahead.
Okay, so let's move on.
Yes, okay,
But
Jane speaks,
Jamie.
Jamie, go ahead.
Jane's been having in her hand.
One of the other things that's happened here in the last couple of weeks was that I was approached by Ramona and Patricia to discuss this opportunity that we have with us. They approached me on the real estate side of this. So professionally, I'm a real estate broker. I'm a commercial developer. I own, ironically, 30,000 square feet in Northwest Denver as the shopping center. This building here is going to be 4 stories tall, approximately 20,000 square feet per floor. So if we have a floor and a half, you've got 20,000 square feet on the first floor and 10,000 square feet on the second floor. The location of it, is my understanding, is directly south of where the hotel is on Spear Boulevard, facing Ball Arena across from those other buildings and bars that are there. As far as parking goes, I mean, we got parking because Ball Arena's there with all of their parking lots. There's a parking structure directly to the south of it that's 4 stories high. You have the Tivoli ball fields that are there. You got all the parking for the King Center. You've got the parking that St. Cajetan's old building uses. You got the parking on the other side of the St. Cajetan's building. So parking, I don't think, is really an issue when it gets down to that part of it. Now, the other thing to understand is that it's a condominium. This is not a space that's being rented. So in this case, it's purchase. It's the ownership would be the nonprofit that is there. It's not subject to having to how would you say, areas, property management people. We, whoever it is that are, as the museum, would be the owners of that space. We would be able to program it, do whatever it is that we want. So that's where it is that I've understood it in talking to Ivan, Anaya, and when we looked at the structure of it all. So we understand it's a fee simple and it's not a being attendant.
Okay, and Gene, is there, I understand that that's the next development in Denver, and it's gonna be really hot real estate. Is that right? Is that how you see this or not?
You've got, yes, because you've got Elitch's is eventually gonna go away. On the other side of Ball Arena, that's all, that is gonna be a growth area of downtown.
Okay, Jamie?
Hi, everyone. Jamie Torres. I represent this district, which includes Auraria campus. One thing that I just want to clarify for issue or concern for me, because I heard it referenced before, but not, I think as specifically as I think it needs to be. And that's I think the bounce on harm that has been done on that property, on that location. In what I'm hearing in Francis's conversation about this site not being appropriate, and whether it's my opinion or not, I just want to make sure that it gets said. Harm was caused on this property, on this location, by the property owner who still manages it. That the displaced Aurarians battle daily on the historic appreciation and recognition of the Auraria neighborhood. So there is that, I think, insensitivity to that piece that I haven't heard mentioned yet. And I don't want tonight to go by without just mentioning that piece, because I think it is significant. And I want to make sure that that's acknowledged. And I heard that a bit in your comments about now partnering with the folks who did that harm, right? With AHEC, with the Auraria campus. So I just wanted to mention that. I do think there's huge opportunity in a museum. I do think it starts small. I also think that there are partners throughout this city and throughout every community in Colorado that haven't had an opportunity to weigh in on this yet. You know, Denver has an African American research library that's part of the Blair Caldwell Library that serves as a bit of a museum and gallery and kind of historical annex for African Americans community in Denver. But it is small, and it also is really only about Denver. So I do worry about the localization of a site like this over contextualizing the Denver story as opposed to the statewide. So,
But those are the kind of things that, regardless of where the museum is and what it is, we have to be conscious of the fact that it needs to be a Colorado museum, correct? That's not particular to this site, it's just that it needs to be a
just
Colorado.
want to air my concern. Yeah, I
No, I'm
just get it out
asking,
as a board. Yes.
It has to have a state focus, not a Denver focus.
And I'll also say, across the street, there's retail potential. There's also going to be 20,000 new residents across the street, right? This is coming through City Council soon, the Ball Arena rezoning. River Mile is about to be completed. Like, there is a massive amount of development that's about to happen. It's going to be an entirely different city. And so, one, I think there's a timing opportunity for us to grab hold of the energy that's even in this room. We all want to be telling this story somehow. And two, I think we legitimately need to hear why there are concerns about this location.
Yeah, I think we're talking, to me, the most important part is not location, but rather than economic location. The National Hispanic Cultural Center in Albuquerque, it was built in the slums, and it developed. So we don't need to have it in a place that's centrally located. Once the facility is open, then it'll become centrally located. So we have to look for space that can be expanded, so you have parking. You can't park, well, we won't get into that, but the point is that we should be looking at an economic location that will fit this, even if it's in Commerce City. The point is, with the amount of money that is needed, should be invested in the facility to expand and have enough room to expand later on, not to take and localize it.
What would be wrong to use the Mikasa model and keep growing the museum?
I'm sorry, louder.
What would be wrong with using the Mikasa model, like I had a starter home, and then you sell it, you get something else, and you keep moving forward. What's wrong with that idea?
Well, I think the problem with that is the same thing that happened with the Bernie Valdez building. As I said earlier, Chalk had the opportunity, had the fundraising, had everything else going for it to take the building and make it into a cultural center.
Right.
Politics played a large part, so you know who got the building, and I
Well, we
won't
just
even go
couldn't
into
raise
that
the
one.
money, and that's the issue here. I mean, people who wanna go a different place, are you going to commit to raising the money, putting the people together, getting the partnerships together, that would make this a reality, because that's the other alternative. Yeah. Hey,
Hi, I'm Margaret Atencio, and I am not an elder Latina, just a viejita. And I'm a fifth generation Coloradan. My family came 166 years ago and settled first in San Luis and then spread all over the valley. I am very concerned that this being centered in an inaccessible spot, according to me, because I'm on a walker. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. In Denver, when our gente is rich in all of Colorado. And I know that my cousins, and I am related to half of Colorado, as Ramona and PBR know. But I am speaking for all my relatives and my gente and from all over Colorado, that something has got to be done that's going to honor them. I'm not looking at a building. I'm looking at something that's going to give honor and tell the story of the gente, how they came here, what they accomplished. My grandfather was in the legislature in the 1930s, and I love my gente, and I would do anything for them, and that's why I'm speaking
okay,
to
so
you now.
Margaret, let me see if we can get it on the chart. Number one, we're back to the state. Everybody agrees with that, right? This has to be a Colorado museum. Regardless of where it is, that's gotta be a Colorado museum. Second of all, you're concerned about accessibility. And that it wouldn't be accessible to you and other people or elders.
To other people or people who are over age.
Okay.
But I don't think that squirreling it away is going to
It's
be.
not squirreling it away.
Yes, it is
No, is
squirreling
not.
it away
It would get, sorry.
on the campus. Yes, it is
It's gonna be
squirreling
on
it
the
away.
Riverview Parkway where people pass by all the time. It's going to be on the campus.
Do you know when y'all,
That's her comment. So,
right,
so
when, you know,
write it down and move on.
Squirreling it away.
when you all picked that other building on Spear, that building was the front of the Denver County Jail, where so many of our people have suffered over the years.
Yeah, you know what, I do wanna say this, that in our work as colonized people, and we were colonized twice, once by the Spanish, once by the Anglo-Saxons, that we have to work through some of that. We just have to work through some of our colonization and what's happened in the past. And my way of doing it is just to kick ass and be the best we can be and do what we need to do and showcase who we are and get our leaders going and, you know, that's what I wanna do. But I think if we keep talking about what happened to us in the past and don't get beyond healing that and getting into our power, we're not gonna be able to really have the impact. We've had 24 years of black mayors in this county. We're not gonna be able to get our political and social and economic power together unless we can get past this. You know, I mean, we just have to get past what happened in the past so that we can move it forward into the future. That doesn't mean we don't tell the story. That doesn't mean we don't have reconciliation. But we're gonna get stuck if we don't move forward.
Yeah, my name is Ron Roybal, and I'm the director of League of United Latin American Citizens here in Denver. My brother and I are both architects and city planners. We have designed museums all over the country. We designed the El Pueblo Museum in Pueblo, Colorado. So we know a little bit about what it takes to design a museum and a historical museum. And one of the concerns I have is, you know, I think we all agree that we want to do Latino or Hispanic or whatever your Chicano museum in Colorado. And, but we've got differences in terms of where we think that needs to be located, whether we represent Pueblo or La Junta or Sterling or, you know, Alamosa, whatever. We have a discussion that needs to take place. That discussion has not happened. We've been told that we either have a project that we have to take it or leave it. We have a governor that has given money to us, and we're going to go ahead and either accept that money or reject it. I agree with you, Wanda, that we have a group now of very high potential, very aggressive. We have a large community in Colorado. I think we can work with the governor to try to direct the money anywhere we want it to go, not just Auraria. In terms of the Auraria project, I sat on that meeting with the displaced Aurarians, and I was asked to look at that building. It's an office building. The whole idea behind that was design educational buildings. Now they're in the commercial construction business to do office buildings. And now they're trying to fill those office buildings. And they told us we can put a museum in an office building. It's a horrible idea. As an architect, you want as many walls as possible. You don't want glass walls. It's a bad idea in terms of storage and location and access and all the things that need to go into the design of a museum.
So you
It's a
believe,
very
let's
bad
put it down
idea.
here, that you do not like the designs as an architect, and that you
There
do not
shouldn't
believe.
have been a design. Right now, we should be in a stage where we're talking about programming, site location, and getting all of our ideas together to generate a direction that we want to take. Not be given, when you started this meeting, you said a museum on the Auraria campus. Take out the word Auraria
No,
campus.
no.
A museum,
I
period.
hope I was clear that we were gonna present the positives about that proposal so that we could decide whether we wanna move forward with that. I did not say that I was here to, because we already had that meeting and people didn't say.
I heard you very clearly. You said a museum on the Auraria.
Yeah, I was giving the reasons why.
So,
that
so what
proposal.
I'm saying is,
And now we're
I would
asking-
love to see all of us work together and work towards a museum, starting from square one about programming and site
So you wanna
location.
start over again?
Start,
He wants to start over again.
Ron, we've never gotten money from the governor at all. Zero money from the governor's office. I just wanna make that clear.
So
we
we have
need to start making that happen, shouldn't we?
So Kim
Yeah, I
Sanchez
agree.
online says that we really need to consider the satellite idea, you know, because we're across the state. And the idea of busing students from all over the state to visit as well. And partnering with public schools as we can. Those are all things that we can do with the program. Which is good ideas, okay.
Accessibility.
Yeah.
She's talking
Steve,
about
go ahead.
accessibility.
Yeah, she's talking about accessibility. She's saying satellites would be a great idea, which is a path we cross at another time. This is simply getting our first museum going. And then second of all, that we should think about how we can bring students into the class. So let me let it. Steve, go ahead, Steve.
Hello, everybody. My name is Stephen Castillo, and I'm the director of the Center for New Directions at the University of Colorado, Denver, and in public policy and politics, public policy. I was asked to be the facilitator for a group that we call now the Latino Community Engagement Group. And the purpose of the group really was to provide alternatives to what's been presented here. And so what I'd like to do is present just some of the things that we've been discussing as a group. First of all, excuse me, with all due respect to all the work that's been done and so forth, there are a couple of things we need to think about. One is, quite frankly, the decision for a location has been decided, has been made here. What's happening here is people are trying to convince us that we should go along with this. They want us to confirm that.
No, we're asking you if you want to.
Let me finish. I'd like to point out three things. Again, this is all with all due respect. I came from a family that the respect was really important. Okay? So, First of all, I don't think there's any question that most people, perhaps with the exception of a couple, don't want or want the museum. No question about that. We also have said we need, however, a broader commitment from the state of Colorado. We need essentially a broader Latino involvement from throughout the state. And they need to look at things like location, design, and so forth and so on. Second point is, we're going to be in the process of conducting a community survey and community sessions throughout the state shortly. So secondly, we're going to be conducting that survey. So the question is, what happens, for example, if people throughout the state, excluding the metro area, don't agree with the location, design, et cetera, et cetera? Will you ignore that group? Will you ignore what they're asking of the design, location, and so forth of the museum? And finally, I'm an economist by training. So I look at this as an economic venture, but not just financial. There's also a cultural economic phenomenon that's happening here. So I see it as a cultural investment, not a business investment. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to involve the entire community. So we'll be bringing you the results of that community, or excuse me, the statewide survey that we'll be doing.
And when is that?
It'll be shortly.
Shortly.
Here's the question though, what are you gonna do with it? If there's a significant difference between what you're proposing and what the community wants, what will you do with it?
Well, I think first of all, Steve, you need to look at the questions that are being asked and the research process, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that we're having this meeting, again, we understand the outreach was not done, we're trying to do that now. It's not unusual for an initiative to be started by a small group and then expand. And second of all, it's about this opportunity that we may not want, but it's not that they chose that because they just thought that was a great idea. According to Gene and people that have looked at it, this is a good investment for our community. It has to be both business and cultural. And where we have fallen short is the business, is the ability to raise 20 million. It's the ability to get assets and keep them, to expand our cultural centers, etc. So it has to be both business and culture.
But what are you asking us to essentially say, here's the deal, take it or leave it? That's really what's
No,
happening.
we're asking you, is this an opportunity we want to take? Because there's some things in place, there's some money raised, there's a potential here to have something, as opposed to, we don't even have on this side, an organized group that could take money if we did get it.
Point being is, you need feedback from the entire state.
Yes, and we're
We
getting
don't have that.
Go ahead.
My name is Mandy Medrano. Soy la granddaughter de Delia Medrano, so I feel like I have to be here.
Yes.
And also, I'm the program arts coordinator at the Latino Culture Arts Center, and built a lot of work in Westwood. What you see is I planted those seeds in 2010, so I want to say first, I don't, before I talk, excuse me if I disrespect my elders, but where is my generation? Where is our indigenous community? Why? When I look in this room, I see a handful of my generation, and I have been doing this work for 30 years. My community's not here. We're talking about Colorado history. Okay, I'm Apache, I'm a Naxante. Where's our indigenous community? Where's our representation? Number 3, the location, it just looks like gentrification. It looks like an easy thing to do because you have a built-in community, so you don't have to do the groundwork. I don't like that. I don't like that the community has been excluded from this process. And I said in the last meeting, I have a handful of people that should be here. I never got an email about this meeting, so once again, we're being excluded. Our voices are being excluded. Grupo Tlaloc, Teocalli, Tepeyotlan, all the Chicanos that have been doing this work, where are they?
How did you hear about this meeting?
I was sent to it from one of my primas, but I gave y'all my email, and I was yet to hear about
I have
it.
to apologize to you. I got a list of some emails that were hand done, and I did not have time to go in and put them all in a computer. computers, so maybe you were missed, but this was sent out to many, many people, and I would
We got third
welcome.
party invites and we should be at the table.
Right,
once.
and I would welcome a list, you know, of younger people.
That's what y'all said
We all
last time.
want-
I just feel like
Can you
we're
type up a
excluded.
list for me?
I
I'm
will
an
type it.
82-year-old person.
Yeah?
I get a written list that is
I
really
will
hard for me
respectfully
when I'm
type it
trying
and
to
give you a
do
group of people that are doing the work. We're talking about decolonization. We are not colonized. We're still here. So that comment is unacceptable. So I just want to say that. I want to see my people here. I want to see our voices. The people that are on the ground preserving our cultura. Where are they, and are they going to be at the table?
And are you gonna be willing to help us?
Are you going to invite me?
Well, you're invited, and you can be on a board member,
You're invited.
and you can
But it's-
invite your people.
It's the same
You
thing
were
though,
here,
over
but your
and
people
over.
aren't here.
It's the same
You
thing
knew
over and
about
over.
it, invite your people.
It's the same thing over and over. We're
Okay,
excluded.
time's up, and then I have, someone online.
Our generation is excluded, and it's bullshit.
Your generation is not excluded. This is an intergenerational thing. Please invite them. We will
How I
welcome
feel,
them
this is
with
what
open
I
arms.
see. This is what I see.
And a lot of
Mama,
times
let's
younger
move on.
generation people help with that. Would you like to help us with the media stuff and getting names together?
You know, I know Mandy, and I know Lemo, my daughter's a member of it, and I can hear some frustration. But I've heard frustration from lots of people, not just younger people. And I personally want to applaud primarily the women who have stepped forward to do this.
Yes.
That's right. There is a need for it, or all of us wouldn't be here if we didn't see a need. And somebody said it earlier, sometimes opportunities come up that you can just ignore or you can jump
That's
on.
right.
And there are valid concerns about the location. I don't know if that can be revisited with the donors or other things like that. Those things have to be done. But at the meeting prior that I attended, we did talk about our Latino history and culture. And here in Colorado, as Mandy said, our history is intertwined with the indigenous history.
That's right.
There are over 48 indigenous tribes who this is their homeland. You can't tell our story without their story. I want to recognize Lucille Eckelhoff, who is a longtime member of the indigenous community that has been here. She has enormous ties within that community, but we need to have people there and be part of the planning. My concerns about this project, and I share some of the concerns about parking and location, but to undertake a project like this, what I haven't seen is a business plan that could answer a lot of these questions. Because even as you raise money, other than going to a family foundation of people you know and getting money, it's going to be doing a lot of grant proposals. And you have to have information about the demographics, about even who will attend, those kinds of things that have to be undertaken. And there's no plan right now that I've heard yet, a business plan of how we do this, how we take these steps. I think that's a first step. And when they talk about 20 million to buy this space of 30,000 square feet, right now, they've only talked about maybe 10 to 12 million that they have. That means in the next 2 years, it's raising another 8 to 10 million, plus operating. Anybody that's helped on a nonprofit, I helped with KUVO and Sujatro. What has to be undertaken is getting people in there. You need a very skeleton staff. We haven't talked about how that will come in to keep this going. So I think if those logistical things were addressed, then maybe this could move forward. This is just to get input, and I would love younger people. But younger people are used to having things, this is how we're gonna do it. Well, that's not decided yet, but I'm glad to hear it.
So here's some financial information. I think that the funding that has been raised is 12,000. We got the congressional discretionary money. And the total project cost is
$1 million.
That's already finished. Right. It was including
Claudia Morales, Executive Director of Museo de las Americas. I want to say first that I respect all of your opinions. I know that people in Museo has been blessed by many of you forever. First, University Museum is not as easy as a 501c3 where you have the space in a separate location. University museums are usually right now, and last conference, let's say from international conference to national conferences, it is really empty spaces, and that being skeletons, where most of the students are not, there is no transit, there is no accessibility. Somehow students come to the school and leave. So that's a big concern. Second, I do agree with all the museum architecture. I saw some of the areas, I think it's terrible. And then another piece to that, besides the land and the parking and everything, and this is something that I want to clarify. I don't see these funding coming to sale or being benefited or anything like that. Like I know this was one project, and the project was going to be funded like that. But I'm also concerned about the rush of or get it or leave it. And I've been involved in other national conversations about the new Latino American Museum. And that's where really it comes to an issue like we just can't do it overnight. And we just can't do it because the money there is not there, because it's not gonna end up representing, and I think that's my main concern. So the idea is that I really wanna see the history of the Latinos, Hispanic, Chicanos represented. We do it different ways. We have a museum where it's art, representing older generations, so on and so forth, older generations too, in a different level. And that's fine. But I do think right now that I just don't agree with the way it's being doing right now. And yes, I've been working with community museums for over now 5-6 years. Community museums in Latin America and certain community museums in the United States. I've been working with university museums too, and I've been, in these conversations and how a community museum will be really representing its own community. And that's where the conversation should start.
University museum, does that mean it's run by the university or just that it's on?
It is located in a university because they get funding from the university. At the end of the day, those museums don't get funded. And it's very complicated.
But is it a university museum owned by the university?
Considered in the campus.
Or is it just a museum on a campus?
No.
No?
No. It is a university museum, one location.
But that's different than having a private museum on campus.
No, because you are gonna have the university, no matter what, the students will be driving, you wanna serve that tradition, right? It's not gonna be located there serving a different community. It's there for a reason, so it's gonna be located serving that community, so it's considered a university. Whether the funding comes from different streams or different areas, at the end of the day, it's gonna be considered a university.
And it's better not to have a university museum?
And my projection would be, let's start with Colorado history. As part of the Colorado history.
Well, wait, this is what Colorado history said, because that's an important thing. I was also told we can have it in Cadgitons, we can't because that's a historical site. History Colorado, as with all of its museums, would develop, implement, and operate the museum in an inclusive, community-informed manner based on organizational guidelines. To ensure History Colorado meets its community values and financial obligations, History Colorado will retain all final decisions in the construction, design, development, interpretation, and operations of the museum. So if we went through History Colorado, it would be one of their museums, not our museum. No, that's what they told us, because we've done some research.
Or in a different location, outside of, then that would be.
Okay, so I think, Fran, you've been.
Yeah, thank you. What's not transferable, okay? Like, what is it, I heard you say there were funds that were not transferable.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So what is not
So
transferable
first of all,
to another site?
first of all, there isn't there isn't an entity that can take money, first of all, other than this entity that Patricia and Holly and them developed. So you have to have an entity that raises the money. And second of all, the money was given because of the proposal that it was gonna be on the Auraria site. That's what the governor approved as well, correct?
Correct.
Yes. So that money is specific to that site, because they like the idea to have it there. Other institutions like the idea that it's on the Auraria campus, or that, you know, that we're working with where they have, or we're working with different groups. So they want a collaborative event, a collaborative center.
And we had, I mean, our organization, the Auraria Historical
Right.
Advocacy Council, we have not, we're not in opposition to the museum being on the campus in another site. I saw St. Catherine's on there, and I hear what you're saying about it being a historical landmark, but there aren't other options? We aren't being given other options?
Well, that, I understand that the founders went to Auraria and said, is there a site here? Auraria said no, and then they came back, well, we're gonna be having some new development. That's what they told me. So you could go back.
Well, that sounds like it.
Let's get the lady online, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Can you do that? She's been waiting. Shirley, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Thank you. We can't see you though.
That's okay. My name is Shirley Romero Otero, and I live in Elvira, San Luis, in the San Luis Valley in the town of San Luis. I am an educator and a community organizer for over 4 decades. I think that, I strongly believe that if this project is going to take off, that there truly has to be community involvement, grassroots community involvement. And I believe that there are enough voices tonight that I have heard while I'm listening about the site, and in particularly from the displaced Aurorians. I think those voices need to be heard, I think they need to be elevated, and I think that they should be honored and considered. As someone who is not in Denver or involved in the Denver politics, I live in a community that has a long history. My roots are here, and I can trace my ancestry to 1532. I say that because we are the oldest town in Colorado. This is where Colorado began. So I would ask very diligently, however this committee is formed or how it proceeds in the future, that we are at the table, that folks from the Western Slope, where I lived for 30 years, are at the table, that folks from the Eastern Slope, the real community, be there, because it's such a wonderful idea, and like people have voiced before, or some of us that have been involved in the Chicano movement, and have fought so long and hard for equity, that that it truly does involve the Chicano-Mexicano community from throughout the state of Colorado. And I ask that you think about that. I think that I am concerned about the other $2 million you got from the Health Foundation, only because in my experience in working for them, they throw a lot of money to communities, and at the end of the day, there is no equity in how that money is dispersed or transparency. That's very concerning to me. I don't want this issue to divide our community, because we all know that that's the last thing we need. However, without true grassroots community involvement, that's exactly what I feel will happen, and I don't want no part of that. I want to move forward. I work with young people in my community, and they also need at the table. One of my Indigenous sisters mentioned that earlier. I think that the voices that you're hearing tonight should be seriously taken into consideration, and if that means that we wait till the survey is done to see how people really feel, I support that.
I want to share an analogy. Right. I'm the author of Pleas and Petitions, Hispanic Culture and Legislative Conflict in Territorial Colorado. Territorial Colorado, okay? Territory, it became a territory in 1861. Okay, so our history is part of New Mexico history. The San Luis Valley goes into New Mexico. What I'm trying to say is when I wrote the book, I could have gone to the University of New Mexico Press to publish that book, but I didn't. I went to the University of Colorado Press because I wanted Colorado to acknowledge that this is Colorado history. So I guess I'm wondering, why is it so bad if that the Colorado History, Museum, or History Colorado, why don't we allow them to take us in or make another museum for us?
Okay. So you don't mind History Colorado
I
being in
want
charge of our
Colorado
museum?
to acknowledge, our history, like everybody else. But
Right.
I'm saying they should accept that responsibility, I guess, you know what I'm saying? You know, we should have our own museums and they should.
So you're okay with History Colorado managing and deciding what's gonna be in our museum?
I just wanted to share why I.
No, no, I'm asking.
Yes,
That's
yes,
what
well,
you're
I'm
saying.
throwing it out as an idea.
Yeah, fine. We're gonna wrap up.
Okay, hello everyone. I really appreciate all of you coming because this is such an important issue for our community. My name is Milo Marquez, and a group of us were the founding members talking about this museum, from Virginia Castro, who is an advisor to the commission, Patricia, and a few other folks. We felt that it was so important to bring this topic to the commission. From the very beginning, our group understood the critical importance of community engagement and dialogue in every decision regarding the location and design of the museo. From the beginning to the end, the commission agreed to a traveling museum prototype that would move across the state in 2026. The goal was clear: to ensure that the voices of the Latino and Chicano communities across Colorado were not only heard, but were central in shaping an institution that would safeguard and celebrate our cultural heritage for generations to come, from beginning to end. During the next few weeks, the community, along with History Colorado, will begin a series of 14 community engagement World Cafe format meetings across the state to collect input from the Latino, Chicano, and Indigenous communities. This path forward will help our community come together to create a vision of a museum that will tell our history. This process will include all of the voices and the inclusion of our people from around Colorado. Tonight, I propose that we work together to ensure that our community voice is included in all the decisions of this process. We must allow the community's voice to be amplified when determining the museum's location and design. Should we envision a museum within a shared space, or should we aspire to have our own freestanding museum on land that rightfully belongs to our community? A museo for our gente must transcend being merely a museum. It should be a sanctuary where our shared history, struggles, and triumphs are proudly showcased. It stands as a beacon of the land back movement, striving to reclaim rightful ownership of our land for the benefit of future generations. Therefore, I urge all of us to reaffirm our commitment to community-driven decision-making. Let us ensure that the Museo for Our Gente genuinely belongs to our community, not just in name, but in ownership and governance. Together, let's strive forward towards a future where every decision reflects the values and aspirations of our people it serves. Thank you so much for your unwavering support, for being here, because it's so important. And I know that everybody that has contributed to this, hours and hours of work that we've all worked, but we need to make sure that the community voice is being heard from beginning to end. And if we're making decisions, we need to make the decision from beginning to end. Thank you all so much.
Milo, this is where I'm having difficulty. I've raised money. I've built organizations. How many of you have raised $1 million for the students, okay? So you all know what I'm talking about. And we can sit here and say everything we want, and people can say everything they want. But when it comes down to it, we don't have assets or strong organizations because we can't come together. And I understand how wonderful it would be to have a standalone museum, but the ticket is going to be $30,000 to $40,000. $1 million. And are we gonna be able to raise that? And are we gonna be able to have a museum when we go through this process and go throughout the state? Who in the state, when they do these focus groups, are gonna get commitments for the money to do this? I mean, that's where I'm stuck personally,
Can I
okay?
just make another
Personally,
comment?
who's gonna raise this money?
One more comment.
10 years.
Huh? It's not gonna, 26 years ago, we tried to do this. We can be another 26 years, we're gonna lose another generation. And I'm just saying, I've worked really hard to build organizations.
We will all
and
have to
assets
come
for our
together to
community.
do this, But I want to,
I just
something
don't-
something that's been left out is we know that this is gonna cost $20 million, but that's for the shell. We have to bring in our furniture and our displays, which is probably gonna cost another $10 million. This is a huge
No,
investment
right.
of $30 million. And when you talk to folks that are creating the Smithsonian's in Washington DC, they will tell you that based on this square footage, it's gonna cost us another $10 million to move in this furniture and the displays. That's a lot of money, and we all have to be committed. And if we can't come together across the state from beginning to end to start this process and do it authentically, we'll never be able to raise the money that we need, because we all know how important this museum is, but we all have to be together to do it.
The money doesn't change in a standalone location, you still gotta do all the
I
exhibits.
will go to my area saying there's no way.
Can I just ask
We're
you
gonna
a
raise
clarifying question?
There is
No,
no way.
I mean, so Milo, I just wanna understand, you mentioned these World Cafe, these conversations in community, and seeking community input. And so I'm just concerned about that and the timing, and then hearing Steve talk about a community survey. And I just think that's very confusing for our community statewide, so I just wanna hear more about.
And we don't even know what that survey's gonna say.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna speak on behalf of the survey, but I will say that History Colorado will be working with the community across the state in their museums and across the state with folks that are in this room, that are online, to make sure that they are getting the community voice from beginning to end. And these will start with 14 community engagement sessions from different parts of the state geographically. There will be 2 in Denver, 2 in San Luis, and then different parts of the state. But that's just step one. If you've been to any of these museums and talked to folks at these museums, like Ramona and Patricia, we've done that. And we've talked to all of these folks from the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, Tennessee, to the Abolition Museum in Ohio. They know that the community engagement
So
needs to start.
let's just hold hands here a second. So
Well,
I
can
think,
can I address Nina's point?
which point? Yeah, because we don't know what the survey even
It's the
says. right?
confusion within our community about who's asking and where this information's going, right? And how it's gonna be used.
Well, the plan would be to work with History Colorado to look at, they have the systems in place, they have the experience, et cetera, to conduct these cafe sessions, et cetera.
And how are they gonna get Latinos into these cafes?
We're gonna meet with them.
You're gonna do it.
Yes.
You are.
All of us.
All of us.
We're gonna use your list.
I already said my list. Yes, the thing is, you're saying, you have to agree that you trust History Colorado. Yes, we do. And I've tried to get oral things done with them, I've tried to work, we tried to get women's exhibits. You know, who says that History Colorado, who says that History Colorado is gonna be more sensitive to our people?
We have to guide them. We have to guide History Colorado. We can't let them control it. We have to come
They're
together
saying
and guide
right
them.
here that if you do a museum with them, they're in charge of
We
everything.
have to guide them.
They say that they will do the decision making on it. It's not gonna be Latinos doing the construction, design, development, interpretation. It's gonna be History Colorado, that's what they're telling us.
There's sessions that are proposed are to find out what the community wants. So it's an inquiry-based type of session, where they're asking them, what are your hopes and dreams for Colorado? How do you want to be represented? In what way do you want to be represented? And where do you want to be represented? And so all of that's going to come out in these sessions. And that's really where it should come from. This is a grassroots effort that should be from the people. And they should have a voice in where they're going to be represented. And that, I know you've apologized respectfully. I appreciate the apology. But that doesn't make it better. A decision that you're trying to make a decision that didn't involve the community, from the core of the community. So we want that statewide. We want to hear from people statewide and give them an opportunity to tell us how they want to be represented.
Okay. And are you with History Colorado?
I've done work with History Colorado.
I am not with Mr. Colorado, but that's what I understand, and, we met with them.
I have a concern, one of the concerns I have is the trustee for the Deborah Art Museum, the trustee for History Colorado, our Hispanic representative at History Colorado, Denver Art Museum, Natural History Museum, please stand up.
It was a past.
Please stand up. Here, they're our culture, they are our cultural representative. Please stand up if they are our culture, and why aren't they here? Are you on the board?
I was for 13 years.
Yeah.
Museum of Nature and Science.
We have our state historian. Charlene Sims, who's done a lot of work with the El Pueblo Museum and Pueblo, steel mill.
I was born in Garcia, Colorado, and I once was San Luis Valley represented. And that's the oldest town, not San Luis. San Luis is the oldest established.
So I do serve on the State Historians Council still, and in 2 years I'll be a state historian again. And so I wonder if we can reframe our relationship with History Colorado as not we and them, or us and them, but we're part of it. And I think, part of that responsibility of being part of History Colorado is to push, right? To remind and push and really make these demands that they need to pursue. So I just wanted to suggest that.
So this would be a question. There are 3 Hispanic serving organizations in that community. And they have a certain responsibility to our community and also get funding, like Metro gets $4.5 million to serve Hispanic students. So you have to decide which institution you feel is more connected to our community and would be more responsive. The stuff that we got from History Colorado, and the reason this nonprofit was formed was because they said, if you want a museum, you have to raise your own money.
Right.
That's what they said. We're not raising money for this.
Right.
If it becomes a History of Colorado museum, it's a whole different thing. We no longer have a community museum.
Right.
So you all need to think about whether, we're gonna be dealing with institutions, and you need to think about which one is more receptive to us, which one has the most representation, and which one will we be able to negotiate and also cut deals with.
Yep.
Listen to everybody here on this all, and when I spoke right at the beginning, it was more for us to try to be working together and how it is that we're not divisive and not being critical. I think we, first of all, as far as location goes, Auraria, as far as respect for our indigenous people, that's where we were. That's where it is all started. It's at Auraria, the confluence of the Platte, the Cherry Creek. It's all here in Denver. That's part of Colorado's history. That part. As far as the general location.
We're just saying that's where it started here.
But I'm just saying.
Not where we started. Here.
Yes, in Denver.
It started in Denver. And many of those people came from San Luis and different places. No.
No, I'm talking about the Indian population, the indigenous. That's here in Auraria. That was in Auraria. But the big thing is that there's an opportunity here that's got the ball rolling quite a bit. In just 90 days, with a budget of $20 million for not only the acquisition of the shell of the building and the tenant improvements inside of it, we have 65% of that money already raised. So now we're only talking about $6.5 million for the next $20 million. And there's things in the works already for that. So then after that, we can go after programming money. We can go after all of the other types of things that Milo was talking about, that wherever the museum is going to be located, you would have to have that type of thing for your exhibits and whatever other kind of specialty types of things that I'm sure Ron could talk about that a museum needs to have and help develop the budget for that. But we have the resources here. We have people that have the experience to be raising funds. We have people that are in different capacities with specialties, in it. I think we've got a an opportunity right now, taking advantage of bicentennial monies, whatever the thing is called, the 150 years, the 250 years. We have that opportunity right now. It's something to be able to take advantage of.
But that's only for a prototype.
So I'm confused.
That's fine. That's a place to start, and it's on a campus that's got over 40,000 students. You've got 82
Latinos.
You've got 82 games a year of the Nuggets and the Avalanche that bring 20,000 fans to the arena there. There's parking that has to accommodate all of those people. So we have that aspect of it to be there, and it's a central location because it's in the state capital, okay? And this is where we have all the cultural things, that happen. So as far as some place to start from, yes. And all the other things can happen from there. I think those ideas are all great ideas, and I think they're acceptable ideas. I mean, we tried to do CLF to be statewide type of organization when we were doing that. And I don't think there's a lack of respect for that. But anyway, we have a great opportunity here. I think if we churn some of our critical thoughts about it and make it more constructive to address the type of concerns that you have and put it into the programming aspect and the other ideas, then we can really move forward. But right now we've had some great fundraisers that got 65% of the money raised in 90 days. Hell, I think they should be applauded and not be criticized, And, these are some of our veteranas that have been doing stuff for our community for, almost, anyway, I won't put the ages on it, but at least 50 years apiece, and experienced fundraisers, so.
As survey's concerned, where if people don't understand the opportunity, if they're just told, do you want a museum? Yes. Do you want it in your backyard? Yes. Do you want, it depends what that survey's gonna say. And if they don't understand what the choices are and what has been done already, then I think it's great that people have an opinion, but they need to have information. And they need to have responsibility and commitment to do what they say they want to do.
You're making the case for information. You just make the case for
Yeah, that's fine,
That's
but,
exactly right. That's what we're
the
trying to do.
information is gathered by what the survey says and how much information they have about what the choices are. If they don't see this as a choice or even know about it, then how are they gonna say, yeah, that's a good idea? Or let's start there and do this,
Who knows how long it'll take after that?
So, because they won't even know about this, so they're gonna choose.
Wait another 100 years?
Yeah, go ahead.
Another 50?
Let's wrap up because we're gonna ask.
So my name is Alfredo.
Alfredo.
And I told myself that I wasn't gonna talk today because I wanted to just listen. And I attended the first meeting. I'm glad there's no gavel today, but there's still a lot of tension in the community. And in the sake of being positive and offered forward-thinking proposals that would be less divisive, I've heard a lot of, this is a standing point for us to start doing this work across the city, that this could be a launch pad to other work that's happening. And I'd like to propose something that would be less divisive and build on the work that's already happening across the entire state. If we have such powerful fundraisers in the room, I would encourage you all, raise $1 million for Museo, raise $1 million for CHAC, raise $1 million for the Latino Cultural Arts Center, raise $1 million for all of the organizations, Mi Casa, raise $1 million for all of the organizations across the San Luis Valley, raise $1 million for all of the organizations in Colorado Springs. I guarantee you it will be less divisive and go a lot further in helping the communities that are already doing this work.
So you're saying that we should not have a museum?
Let people do what they bring us all together and elevate what's already happening.
Okay. So no, his vote is for no museum.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying elevate all of us already. Don't divide us further.
No, I'm not saying that.
Elevate us all together.
You're saying what? I didn't get it.
Let's create it.
Thank you.
Let me just say what they're
Thank you.
Okay.
I didn't listen to it, I wasn't supposed to say. Your name? My name is Jolie Casas, been here over 40 years, also working with the community, Latino community from the ground up. And I've listened, and really, we don't want a museum that's gonna divide us.
We want something to show that we're coming together. We already are so divided. I see this all the time. And the opportunity to have a museum. And I thought, why don't we do one down in the south and have the people do what they need to do, their people in here. And so I'm understanding what he's saying is, yes, create a museum, but a museum for everybody so everybody feels proud. We all come together, we all visit everybody. Don't ask me how to do that. I don't do museums, there are experts here. But we gotta bring people together, and that way is listening to everybody and make it happen and acknowledge every single person here that belongs here. And it takes time. We can't be in a hurry. We gotta do this.
That's not fair. I don't think everybody's listening, that's not fair.
That's okay, I mean, some people are listening, people that are here are listening, but it's important. And I know people here, I know the people, I want to appreciate, I know you, Patricia, I know everybody here, most people that have been here, I'm supportive of everybody. Thank you for the work that you have done, and have opened these doors so we can all come together and really appreciate and respect everybody's background. I mean, I'm an immigrant Latina, okay? So I want to be part of it as well. And this is my home, my children's home. But everybody else, I respect everyone. So we listen to them. And I've been listening, and everybody's so passionate. And so we can make this happen and make the best thing here in Colorado, which is the city. Thank you.
I told you there's gonna be no
So that we get everybody's voices. All right, so has everyone had a chance to speak? Okay. So, we're kind of at a decision-making point. I would like to say that yes, if the data is collected in a way that's fair and authentic and gives people, this is possible, of course that's good data, but if we're just gonna go out and say, what do you want? They may not have the right questions to be able to answer that. So that would be important to do.
There's a hand raised here.
Yeah, if we wanna have what committee is working on the questions? Who's designing the data?
We're gonna be working with History Colorado, we're in the process of.
Oh, History Colorado is gonna be designing it? Okay.
No,
So-
what I'm saying is there's gonna be input from all the groups.
Yeah.
For that.
And we welcome yours.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. So, and that will be ready in 2 weeks, you say?
No, that's part of the problem. You can't be in a rush, you gotta collect data from
Okay.
all of the.
All right, so,
all of the state.
okay, and so what is your projection as to how?
By the
many
end of
it's-
September.
Yeah, by the end of this fall.
No?
It'll be this fall.
In a month?
It'll be in the fall.
Okay, all right.
But the survey would be out
Or completed? When will the data that you want us to look at be available?
In the fall. In the fall.
In the fall.
In the fall.
So we'll say October.
September,
Okay, September, October, there's going to be a collection of data by the Colorado History Museum.
And we need to be in there and pushing them and guiding them and making sure they're asking the right kind of questions. We can't rely on them to ask the questions. We all need to come together and make sure that the questions that they're asking are the right questions for our community.
Well,
The groups, the folks that are here with the LDC group, they're very smart, they're very committed, and they're gonna have the best questions possible. And they're committed to having whatever data comes out, we have to be able to say, what are we gonna do with it?
okay. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
We're gonna share it, we're gonna share it.
You're going to share it, and then what?
Well, then we may hopefully make decisions.
And that'll take another year.
Well,
So it'll take a year to process. All right. Okay. And another 5 years to build the museum. So we're talking 5 years. Correct? That lady had
What's the basis for the 5 years?
Well,
that you're
Claudia's talking about having to build a museum by the time.
Part of it, we don't know right now, is what the community wants. You can't twist your arm and say, this is what you're gonna have. Therefore, I'm a researcher, so answer the data, look at what it says, and then decide from there.
Okay, and
I have
where
no
is
idea what that means.
the accountability gonna be after that data is? presented? In other words, who's going to raise the money for the museum and put the group together?
Raise money is one part of the process, we have to look at all kinds of other things too.
One last comment, I swear this is my last. Why, we shouldn't be in a rush, because this museum,
Because we had 26 years.
I'm looking around this room, this museum isn't for us. We all know most of us know our history. This museum is going to be for the next generation, and the generation after that, and the generation after that. So we shouldn't be in a rush to do it and build this museum and make mistakes. Let's do it the right way now, so our future generations can learn from what they're getting out of that museum.
All we're talking about starting is the bricks and mortar
So what I think we need to do, number
right
one,
now.
is kind of get a show of hands of who wants to move forward and who wants to wait for the data and the planning and the 5 years and the fundraising and all that. And then second of all, I want to hear from Patricia and them whether you want to move this forward, whether you want to discuss what's happened here and how we're
Yeah,
going.
we just need to listen,
Okay.
because I think it's really important that we hear what the community wants to do.
Okay.
I mean, like I told you, we just did the groundwork.
Right.
And all we wanna do is hand it over to the community. That's all we have done. That's it.
I don't think we can speak for the entire state. This is not the community. What we have in this room is not the community. The community is our
Why are
state.
we here?
And see, so where I'm gonna hang out is, we're gonna have this history of Colorado day. And having, who's gonna go out and do all this?
We are.
You are.
We are.
You are gonna
Yes,
go do
yes,
it.
I
You're
am.
gonna go to meetings and get money and show designs.
Yes.
Terrific.
We've been in the movimiento for like 40, 50 years.
And we still don't have a museum, 27 years
No,
ago,
you
we
know,
tried this, and then we never got it.
This
We
idea,
don't have a heritage.
the idea of a museum came from the 150, 250 celebration.
Right.
Right? Okay. We can do something else. I don't know, but
Yeah,
let's
let's have a
remember, you know, that this was the initiative for the 150 celebration.
Okay, so, go ahead, because you've been so polite.
Deborah's been wanting to talk.
Go ahead.
It's okay, my name is Deborah Quintana, and my name is Deborah Quintana, and I have questions about the survey. If you're wanting to do something positive, then why not have the transparency of sharing your survey with the group? Well, we want to be involved before you do the survey. We haven't done this. But would you share that?
Absolutely. I guess, Steve, what she's saying, we haven't been asked.
Well, we're asking.
But, I mean,